to celebrate the beginning of this new phase of the Irish Ocean Literacy Network, we are really, really happy to have here with us today Dr. Francesca Santoro, who is probably the person in the world who is more than anyone bringing forward the promotion of a global promotion of ocean literacy. In fact, we have picked for the theme as theme for today ocean literacy for all, basically. So working together to contribute to the change that we need to connect humanity with the ocean. So I want briefly to introduce Dr. Santoro. I'm sure all of you know. So she works for the Intergovernmental Oceanographic Commission of UNESCO, and in this role, she's in charge of the Ocean Literacy Program. She holds a PhD in Analysis and Governance for Sustainable Development from the School of Advanced Studies in Venice, with specialization in marine environmental sciences, marine governance, science education, and communication. Francesca joined UNESCO in 2011, and before she worked as lecturer for the University Ca' Foscari in Venice. She worked as well for several international research centers, such as the Euro-Mediterranean Center for Climate Change, the International Marine Center, the International Oceanography Center, and the Joint Research Center. So now, please, Francesca, we look forward to listen to your presentation.
Thank you. Thank you so much for such a wonderful introduction. I'm really pleased to be here with you and to be able to share some information on what we do on a more global level on ocean literacy, especially in the framework of the Ocean Decade. So let me share my presentation. So I will speak in particular about the Ocean Literacy with All program, which is the endorsed Ocean Decade program of the Ocean Decade for ocean literacy that we are, as IOC of UNESCO, we are coordinating, and I will show later also the other partners. Some of them are here with us, and of course the Irish Ocean Literacy Network is one of the partners of the program. So what is ocean literacy? I don't think I have to say too many words to to you all about what is ocean literacy, but what I wanted to say is that, as you also all know, this concept has been evolving quite a lot in the last years. From my perspective, the main innovative element of what we are doing on ocean literacy stays in the title of the program, that is ocean literacy with all. So our main objective is really to engage as many stakeholders as possible, as many actors as possible in ocean literacy. And so therefore, the idea of ocean literacy just to be taught or used as a concept, as a goal in formal education is really changing quite a lot to become a goal for the entire society. And that's what this particular program is trying to do, especially because it's done in the context of the UN Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development, which really tries to, of course, to fill some knowledge gaps when it comes to our knowledge of the ocean. But I think, again, the main innovation that the decade wants to bring for our community is to bridge those gaps between ocean science, society, and policy. So this is, for me, our biggest challenge, but also what really drives my work every day. So what is Ocean Literacy with All? Is a program that builds capacity and behavior change to achieve an ocean literate society to help ensure a sustainable development of the global ocean. Ocean Literacy with All advances ocean literacy through international partnerships and networks by designing and implementing transformative locally and globally relevant research-based activities and projects by and for diverse stakeholders. So the program was endorsed in 2021, in June 2021, as one of the first Ocean Decade programs, and is going to run until the end of the Ocean Decade in 2030. So why to create a global program on ocean literacy? Well, I don't know how familiar you are with overall the objectives and challenges of the Ocean Decade, but just in a nutshell, the motto of the Ocean Decade is to go from the ocean we have to the ocean we want. And the ocean we have, unfortunately, we know is unsafe, polluted, not known, but the ocean we want is described by 7 societal outcomes that are, saying that we want an ocean that is safe, healthy, resilient, but also an ocean that is inspiring and engaging. So the outcome 7 of the Ocean Decade says that we want to achieve an inspiring and engaging ocean where society understands and value the ocean in relation to human well-being and sustainable development. Also, as you might know, the Ocean Decade has identified 10 challenges, which are the most pressing topics and issues that we have to tackle during the time scale of the Ocean Decade. And of course, Ocean Literacy with All is contributing to Challenge 10, which says that we want to ensure that the multiple values and services of the ocean for human well-being, culture, and sustainable development are widely understood, and to identify and overcome barriers to behavior change required for a step change in humanity's relationship with the ocean. So, as you have seen also, especially when reading the Ocean Decade Challenge 10, it is all about behavior change. So why to build capacity for and promote behavior change when it comes to our relationship with the ocean is actually, it's in my opinion, and I know also for many of the people that are being part of this webinar today, the most important role for ocean literacy is really to make sure that the ocean knowledge that is produced by the scientific community is used by the society as a whole. And so it's a fundamental tool which can influence the knowledge of the society towards the ocean. And as I always say, ocean literacy is much more than just educating or informing the public and the marine and maritime stakeholders about the importance of the ocean, but it is really about connecting people with a proper learning tools and scientific information about the ocean, and also very importantly, considering local contexts and cultures. This is really something that we are pursuing in Ocean Literacy with All, and overall in the work that we as IOC of UNESCO do in terms of ocean literacy. We really value that there are different perspectives, different cultures, different way of interacting with the ocean in different locations around the world, and it's really important that overall what we do on ocean literacy takes into full consideration all of those differences. So I'm quoting myself, which is a bit strange, but so as I was saying, ocean literacy is really about empowering people with tools to better use that ocean knowledge to become more responsible and able to take decisions that involve ocean resources in a more knowledgeable way. It is really about being capable of understanding how much the ocean influences our life and how much we can influence the ocean in both positive and negative way. So what are the ambitions of Ocean Literacy with All? I don't know if you have seen this series of interviews that The Economist did, interviewing some major, experts on ocean, and one of them is David Attenborough, as you see here, but there were scientists and people working in NGOs, and so The Economist was asking them, if you had $1 billion, what would you do with this $1 billion to save the ocean? And well, the Peter Thompson, who is the UN Secretary General Special Envoy for the Ocean, he said, I would take that $1 billion and I would direct it into education, because he said, if you give people that knowledge, they are going to start making the right decisions, and not just individuals, but communities, governments, international bodies have to be supplied with the right science. So we, as I mentioned before, we started working on with the Ocean Literacy with All program in June 2021, but this year, 2022, some people are calling this the super year for the ocean, and one of the major events that happened this year was the second UN Ocean Conference that, as you know, was postponed because of the pandemic. So the conference happened in Lisbon last June, between the end of June and the beginning of July. And with that, we started this idea of organizing a series of ocean literacy dialogues. So our main goal here is to highlight that ocean literacy should not be seen as always a side event in these major international events on the ocean, but should really get the role it deserves and being part of the official program. So we started with the ocean literacy dialogues in the UN, in the second UN Ocean Conference, and we really wanted to make sure also that we were giving voice to many stakeholders. So we had people from journalism, from finance, of course, a lot of people from ocean literacy networks, from research. So again, we really wanted to show that ocean literacy should be done with all. So during this event, we also were lucky enough to have a video from the UN Secretary General Special Envoy for the Ocean, who is a big advocate for ocean literacy. And so he really said that he thinks that more resources should be put on ocean literacy, because ocean literacy should become an entire society goal. Already we had a second edition of the Ocean Literacy Dialogues, which were held in Santos in Brazil. I don't know if you know that Santos was the first city in the world that promulgated an ocean literacy law. So right now in the city of Santos in Brazil, it is compulsory to have ocean literacy in primary school curriculum. So I think this is really a major step forward for our community, and we should all be inspired by what is happening in Santos in Brazil. The event was really a big success. I know some of you were there. And again, the idea was to really show how many different aspects and approaches can take the ocean literacy work that we all do together. So a little bit about the governance of ocean literacy with all. This is, you know, overall what we do. The coordinating entity is as I was saying, the IOC of UNESCO. We have a general assembly with all our partners, a steering committee with the leaders of the different components. We are identifying some task teams also, and then you see here all of the components that I'm going to show you now what they are about. So these are the components of ocean literacy with all. So the component one is to develop ways and approaches to measure the impact of ocean literacy throughout the decades. The second one is about ocean literacy research. The third one is about ocean literacy training. Component 4 is about ocean literacy accessibility, which means increasing the accessibility of ocean literacy resources for everyone. Component 5 is about ocean literacy networks, and component 6 is about coordination. These are the partners of the ocean literacy with all, the co-leads of the component. As you can see, the Irish Ocean Literacy Network is one of the co-leads, and therefore is part of the Ocean Literacy with all steering committee. Some other partners are other networks. So just to go back to what I was saying before regarding the with all, as you can see, we have different types of organizations involved in ocean literacy with all, so networks, research institutes, universities, an international organization like the IOC of UNESCO. So, you know, and we hope also in the next years to add more partners, because as you can see, we have some gaps in terms of geographical coverage of our program. Some of the achievements of ocean literacy with all, we published a state-of-the-art ocean literacy document, which is freely available from this link you can see here. And our intention was really to take stock of what we as a community has been doing in terms of ocean literacy. So presenting some case studies from different locations around the world, different scope, different type of, objectives, and to try to draw out some lesson learned. So what are the elements that are defining the success of an ocean literacy initiative, but also some of the challenges. So this document is really trying to do that, because I think, this community is really achieving great results. So it's important to also reflect on what we have been doing so far to also help us designing the next iteration of ocean literacy initiatives. Ocean literacy was mentioned really during the Ocean Decade by everyone, really by high-level people. In this picture, you see the President of Portugal. As you might know, the UN Ocean Conference was sponsored by Portugal and Kenya. Also, the President of Kenya mentioned a lot of times ocean literacy. Everyone was really, really highlighting the important role of ocean literacy if we want to achieve the goals of the SDG 14. Also, another major step for our community was the fact that last January, on the occasion of the International Day of Education, the IOC of UNESCO launched a toolkit for policymakers to help them, including ocean literacy in curriculum frameworks. And our Director General, Madame Audrey Azoulay, she also, on the occasion of the One Ocean Summit organized by President Macron last February, she launched a call to all our 193 member states, telling them that if we want to manage the ocean better, we need to teach it better. And she asked to all our 193 member states to include ocean literacy in curriculum frameworks by 2025. We also have a new UNESCO ambassador for the ocean, Goodwill Ambassador. She's the Brazilian surfer Maya Gabeira. She was appointed as a champion for ocean and youth, and she's going to help us also advocating for ocean literacy globally. She's really super interested in ocean literacy and really willing to help this entire community to get ocean literacy more present also in the public domain. So this is all what I wanted to say on ocean literacy with all. I'm of course available for questions, and I look forward to continue working with you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Francesca. That was really interesting, really inspiring. And as I said in the chat, please feel free to ask your questions. I actually have one, if I may, just to start. I find really interesting the point that you mentioned that you also, as part of the work, there are also training for journalists. Did I get that correct? Because this is something that was, a couple of weeks ago, there was a new event here in Cork about the EU mission, and there was a big focus about citizen engagement. And one person raised this important point about the fact that the news are so negative because unfortunately life is tough, but at the same time, how are you guys working with journalists to try to find the proper language or way to deliver this information?
Yeah, well, we, as part of our efforts of, again, I'm repeating this quite a lot because it's really important for me to engage as many stakeholders as possible in an ocean literacy dialogue or discussion. We also, of course, need to give them the tools, first of all. And so we developed a series of ocean literacy trainings. So one for government representatives, one for educators, for the finance sector. We are designing now one for architects and urban planners. And we developed 2 series actually of trainings for journalists, and these were all really successful, and they were also like a sort of entry point to start really a collaboration with those journalists. And what we are trying to do is really to present some basic information about the ocean, because most of the time they really lack even these, basic concepts. And then we also presented some, case studies of journalists who are already working on ocean topics. And also, very importantly, and this was said also during the event in Lisbon, we need to have those allies, because they can set the agenda. Because we were discussing especially with the journalists who came to Lisbon, that is their role to set the agenda regarding what is being said in the news. Because right now, for example, we all talk about the war, we all talk about energy issues, but he was saying, if I as a journalist I'm able to say that talking about the ocean, even in this very complex geopolitical situation, then the other journalists will follow, because I will set the agenda. So that's why I'm saying that it's really important to create those partnerships and relationships, and it's also to build mutual trust, and I can assure you from my personal experience that it works quite well.
That's good to hear. It's actually really uplifting, I must say. So we have, thank you, Francesco. We have a couple of questions in the chat. The first one is from Margaret Ray, who is asking, how do we go about linking the ocean literacy work we do or currently designing to the UN Ocean Decade and the components you showed?
Well, the components that I showed were actually very much linked to the ocean literacy framework that we developed overall for the Ocean Decade. Because at some point, colleagues working in what we call the Decade Coordination Unit, they came to us and they said, we really need to have a strategy for ocean literacy for the Ocean Decade, because they were actually realizing that ocean literacy is really the enabling factor for the success of the Ocean Decade. So we developed this framework for the Ocean Decade, which was based on a large consultation that we did with a number of people participating in surveys in an event here in Venice. And also we kept on discussing with different partners. And one of the things that probably I didn't stress that much, but it has been communicated to me quite a lot by different people and partners around the world, is that the major thing that we need to be able to achieve is really a collaboration among all those working on ocean literacy around the world, and to make sure that we are in touch with each other. Because sometimes we start from scratch, we redo things that are done in other countries. We don't we are not able to really get people to work together to develop joint projects. So that's what we try to do with ocean literacy with all, also thanks to the ocean literacy portal of the Ocean Decade. And we really try to develop the more and more functions in those online tools. We are launching very soon a community of practice on ocean literacy on the Ocean Decade portal, because this is really, for me, at least for me, and again, I keep on hearing this from different partners, there is a big need for strengthening the collaboration of the different networks around the world. So this is really crucial for the Ocean Decade, because everyone is really to do something on ocean literacy. And apart from those projects and programs that are labeled ocean literacy, if you look at all the actions and activities of the Ocean Decade, almost all of them mention ocean literacy. So I think this is something we should capitalize on.
It's brilliant. Yeah, it's great. You're stressing the point about collaboration, because it's really the key. And then one last question from Dave White that is asking, if you had a wish for what ocean literacy would look like by 2025 or 2030, what would it be?
Wow. I wasn't prepared for that. A wish for me is that people don't see anymore ocean literacy as an add-on, but they see ocean literacy as a central thing in whatever we do in the ocean community.
That's perfect. Thank you very much, Francesca.
Thank you.
Oh, no, sorry, there is still another question. So that's from Annette Wilson now. What is the next step for the ocean literacy global movement? And what are the current barriers for ocean literacy groups to collaborate?
So for me, one big step for the ocean literacy global movement is to be able to advocate on a policy level, international policy level. And it's what I was saying before, you know, why ocean literacy has always to be a side event in the UN Ocean Conference. Ocean literacy should be part of the official negotiations, of the official discussions that countries are having when it comes to, you know, our objectives in terms of implementing SDG 14, but also other policies like, you know, as I mentioned before, the Ocean and Climate Nexus. Now, you know, in a few days also we are having the CBD, Conference of the Parties. So I think our goal should be really to be able to advocate with our governments and with our representatives on a more international level. The current barriers, I think is just a matter of providing tools for people to collaborate. And as I mentioned before, now, you know, one of the good heritage or legacy of the pandemic is that we are all more used to work online. So I think, you know, we should take advantage of the immense array of tools that we have right now in the internet to work together. So the main barriers for me is really to make sure that there are tools available for people to work together, because people are very much willing to work together, and people cannot travel around the world. It's too expensive, and it's also not very you know, it's contributing to our CO2 emission. So I think, you know, we should even just, I was thinking in one of the conference, I said that, you know, have at some point every month open a Zoom room like this one and invite everyone to just, you know, present what they do and discuss, because, you know, it might sound like a little thing or a simple thing, but you know, the collaboration and new projects, new initiatives, they just come from, you know, exchanging ideas and insights and showing also what has been working and not working in different occasions or in different locations. So I think we shouldn't think too many big or complicated or sophisticated things. I think we should just offer people more opportunities to, you know, exchange ideas and insights.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Now, I'm really sorry that unfortunately we need to move on, and Francesca, you're happy with that? I ask everybody to keep writing comments and questions in the chat. But it's yeah, no, what you said, it's really inspiring and important also, because as Noreen wrote there in the chat, that is already, it's food for thought for us, even as a group for the IOLN, to think about what we can do next. But now
sorry, I just wanted to add one thing. Next week here in Venice, we're organizing a winter school on ocean literacy and collaboration. I was supposed to organize a winter school on a topic, but then I said to myself, maybe this is not what people need. Maybe people need more soft skills on how we collaborate, on empathy, on you know, intercultural, interlanguage communication. So the school is going to be about those soft skills and not about climate change or marine pollution or any other topic. So I think the more and more I work on this topic, and generally speaking in the international arena, I truly believe that these are the skills we should be working on, and especially if we want to, and we have to work collaborative for the rest of the Ocean Decade years, because this is, as you know, as we always say, this is once in a lifetime opportunity, so we need to size it. And for me, those are the things we should be working more on: how we collaborate, not being jealous about our things, let alone ownership of things we do. Once we do it, they belong to the entire community, and I truly believe that. So let's try to exercise and think about those things when we do our every day by day work. Let's really try to be as open as possible, and be ready to collaborate with the others.
Absolutely, Ari. Thank you very much for stressing it, because this is so important. The connections are fundamental. Thank you very much, Francesca, really, for your contribution today. It was really, really great. Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you.